Hey there, everyone. Harley here with HD Cards and Collectibles, and I'd like to welcome you to my second ever live stream. And tonight we have a very special guest, the Pokemon fanatic himself, Dan the Lawnmower Man, KetchumAll Collectibles.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going great, especially now that you're here with me and I'm not streaming alone, because that would probably end sadly. All right. First, I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight. But before we get started, I would like to discuss how you're involved in the Pokemon business space. From what I've gathered, it seems like your oldest YouTube videos are about 4 years old. But I've seen in some of your videos that you've been involved with the hobby to some extent for about 11 years now, I think. Um,
Mhm.
and then speaking of your content 4 years ago, it mainly focused on like pack breaks and graded card plays and your start on Troll and Toad Evo. Since then, I know you've done a lot on eBay and other platforms. Now it seems like Fanatics is a really good outlet for you and your team. Um,
Yep.
so if you could go ahead and fill in any gaps that I left there and tell us how you're doing now and like what exactly you're doing now.
Yeah, I'll give you like a quick, speedy run through of the 11 years, and then we can drill into any points that you want to. Um, I'm 35. I had a typical like 1999. I was in fifth grade. I think most people my age at the time got into it. Couple years into it, the games, the TCG, the anime, a little bit of all of it. But like most of us, I got out of it a couple years later, around the gym era. Gym Heroes, I believe, is the last cards that I had in my binder. Some of them.
Okay.
Um, 2014, which I think relative to most people currently probably watching, most people currently in the space today, 2014 is like a pretty early reentry. I think a lot of people tend to like kind of pop in and out. I've been back in like pretty heavy since 2014. I happened to find my binder when I was moving out of my parents' house into my own house, and I just dove in head first. I started the first several years really big collector, filling in for lost time. I opened every box that I had missed along the way, which was one of my crazy early collection goals that I completed. But things started getting pretty serious within a few years, and I amassed a big collection. And then the pandemic, like up till 2019, I was pretty much collector boy Dan. I call my former self. 2020 is when the market just decided, like, hey, we can't spend our money on other things. We can't go out. Let's all hit the internet. Let's all watch Logan Paul break that box and whatever all the things that contributed to it. My collection 10 to 20x in value,
Oh
and I
wow.
enjoyed it all. I loved it, but I couldn't justify keeping it. So I started selling off what I had, almost all of it, not quite all of it, but and I met a lot of people. I actually went to Worlds in 2018 was the first event I went to, and then I went to a couple regional events and another Worlds in 2019, and started making all these connections deeper from who I'd met on like E4, the Elite Forum years ago. So I just got in deeper and deeper and deeper by sheer luck, by sheer chance. All my inventory went up like crazy. All my collection went up like crazy. And in 2021, my side hustle kind of was dwarfing my original 9 to 5, my job that I'd had for the prior decade. So it came down to it where I had to pick one or the other, and I went with Pokemon cards over engineering. So I quit my job, and yeah, the rest was history. I, like you said, Troll and Toad Evo, eBay Vault, Fanatics, collect primarily now, Fanatics Live. I've made some major pivots, not all through my own choices. Some of them, the market kind of forced me into doing them, but to wrap all that up and finally answer your question, um, what I'm doing today is primarily consignments. I do consignments through the Fanatics Collect platform. I do still do like early on the PSA return videos, the pack openings. I do that stuff. It's just not as front and center, and it's kind of like supplementary to the other things. The main things are the consignment and then the live stream operation. So I'm like the product sourcer. I've generated a lot of contacts over the past decade plus, and I think I'm a pretty savvy buyer. So I'm the guy who sources, And then I have PK and Ponga, and then Skya also for MetaZoo, who I send the product to. They're my independent contractors that turn on the camera, fire up the stream, and they're selling to the end consumer. So from 2014 to 2024, I was all like business to consumer or consumer to consumer for the beginning
Hmm.
of that. One thing I said for 2025 and beyond, I'm business to business now only. I focus on putting other businesses in between me and the end consumer, because that usually, at least in my experience, leads to a lot more frustrations and just difficulties and tedious things that I don't want to deal with as much. I'll lower my margin. I'll give that margin to someone else to stand between me and the end consumer.
Yeah, that's fair. Dealing with the end consumer always leads to customer service issues, and if you're the one doing
Mm-hmm.
it, you're the one who has to deal with the customer service.
And I did 10 years of that, and that was enough for me. Just like engineering was apparently 10 years was enough. So maybe maybe I'll do the whole business to business thing for 10 years, and then who knows what happens after that.
That's just your time limit, a decade, and then you have to transition.
Yeah. I guess I burn out on things after a decade. I've got to call it quits at that point.
You could say it's your half-life, if you will.
Yeah.
Ah, funny. Anyways, let's get into some rapid fire fluff questions. So this is just to get us warmed up before we get into the meat of everything. First
Mm,
one, what first exposed you to Pokemon? You said obviously you got into it when you were younger as a
yep.
true 90s kid or
Yep.
1900s kid.
Yeah. Yeah. I was born in 1990, so I'm a 90s baby. Um, I mentioned that I engaged with all of them. I engaged with the anime, the cards, and the video games. But really, the biggest thing. This is not the original one. I actually I'm so nostalgic for it that I went out and I bought a sealed copy of the Kiwi Green Game Boy Color. I still remember going to Toys R Us with all my gift cards from birthday, Christmas, whatever, and then putting in some of my own money, hard-earned money from working with my dad, my allowance, whatever I built up. I remember it was $100. The game was 30, 29.99 for Pokemon Yellow, and then 69.99 I believe for that. 100 something dollars with tax. The first time in my life at that point I'd ever spent $100 on anything, so it was like a big deal. And man, the games just sucked me right in. I My Yellow save, I haven't checked it in over a year at this point. Every time I check it, every couple years I think about checking it. I hope the battery still works. I know the batteries can fail, but
Mm.
yeah, I had all 150 Pokemon. I played through it multiple times. The final playthrough, I caught them all. That really, I, I'm thinking now. You said rapid fire. That was not very rapid fire, but Pokemon Yellow, Pokemon Crystal, they're what really pulled me in.
Yeah, that's fair. It was Crystal for me. All-time favorite
Chris,
Pokemon.
Crystal, I prefer, but I'm so bad at favorites. I'll try to stay quicker on this one. Quaxly's one of them. Charmander's one of them. Gengar, Dragonite, Mewtwo, Charizard, Pikachu. Like, I'm terrible at picking favorites, but that's a list of some of them. Clearly a Kanto guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say obviously Gen 1. So that probably answers the next question. Favorite generation of Pokemon.
I'm a Kanto guy. Yep. Kanto through and through, but I'll say Johto is solid. Johto is solid, and Crystal's actually my favorite game.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Uh, Johto is home to Umbreon and Suicune, so those are my top two. Um,
Nice.
uh, but next rapid fire, I'm getting us off track now. Favorite TCG gimmick? Mega, Tag Team, Terra, any of those? Anything that I didn't mention?
I feel like it's a pretty basic answer, but like Gold Stars. Gold Stars definitely captured something really amazing. They that era, it wasn't the whole EX era, but that section of the EX era, those 27 Gold Stars, they gave us the Greninja Gold Star. That's a solid like late more modern Pokemon. That's one of my top ones too. I really like Greninja.
That's fair. The Gold Star is pretty sweet. I love the Umbreon Gold Star, obviously the Celebrations one. Um,
Mm.
Anime, TCG, or games if you could only have one.
So my younger self would have said the games. I haven't played a game since I haven't beat a game since Crystal. I started Sapphire, I didn't beat it. I started Moon for a little while, didn't beat it. So if I had to pick today, anime. Um, as far as my job relying on the TCG, like I would pick it for that aspect. But if we're talking about just like pure enjoyment, I guess I'm answering it with different hats. Childhood me, video game, enjoyer me, just enjoying it. My kids love watching the anime. I'm watching that with them right now. We watch the old one, the new one, all in between. But obviously, for my job, for my livelihood, the TCG.
Yeah.
So classic Dan on the fence, answering all three.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting all of the above as your answer,
Yeah,
but that's fair. I
I'm
actually
bad at picking
haven't
favorites, and I'm bad at making choices.
I haven't really watched any of the more recent animes. Probably the latest one I watched would have been around Diamond and Pearl, maybe Black and White.
Mm.
And that
My
was
my son's
probably
been
it.
my son's been like he'll leapfrog in between uh Indigo League, the original couple seasons, and
Hmm.
then he'll watch like I just actually recently watched for the first time Ash winning, like becoming the champion, Ash defeating Lance and defeating Cynthia and like all those battles. He's watched those like multiple times through recently. He's getting really into it again.
That's awesome. All right, switching gears here from the rapid fire stuff, getting into some business questions. If you had to start over today, how would you navigate starting a Pokemon business in today's market?
I think the perfect answer is like exactly what I've done. So I've been in the hobby for 11 years, and eight months ago, I drastically changed up what I had been doing. So if I was faced with this question, like I literally just did this 8 months ago. I fired up the live streaming. Live streaming is so much of the fuel of today's current market, I believe. Like so much flows to live streaming. I go to conventions and it's like there's streamers doing buyouts and this and that. And a lot of the boom, I think, truly is being supported by the end consumer, often ending up being like the live stream consumer. So I know I had benefits in starting it up. I had a name. I've been around for a decade. I had a lot of connections, relationships. I had relationships with people that could stream for me, PK and Panga. Um, so it wouldn't be as easy as I had it with the foundation that I had laid over the past decade. But people are starting up all the time. Whatnot, I think, makes a very great product through the live stream. Very easy to fire up, get going. I think they're good at like helping people get off the ground. I think that in between time after the first month, after the promo seller fees like expire, after a lot of those pumping initial streams they do, it gets a lot harder. But I've seen and I've heard of many people firing up a live stream in the past year or two and having great success, myself included.
Gotcha. And with that, like a distributor isn't exactly necessary because you can buy them secondary and then just upcharge on the live stream.
Yep, yep. And I like Destined Rivals, for example. We've sold over 10,000 packs of Destined Rivals in less than a month. It's not even been out for a month. And my original entire allocation, I've had two distributors for a decade, and I've spent over $1 million with them. And my entire allocation was like 6,000 packs. We burned that in the opening weekend. So like that's all gone. Almost half of what I've sold overall is stuff I got from the secondary market. I'm paying 80, 85, 90% of market, and then I'm selling it for 100, 105, 110% of market, somewhere in there. And then paying the streamer, paying the platform fees. And it's not like a massive margin business, but there's enough meat on the bone, at least for now, in today's market, in today's
Hmm.
environment, the way that I can source. There's enough meat on the bone to pay a decent wage to the streamers and then make money myself. So I'm kind of riding that wave. And if and when that ceases to work, if that stops working, I've done Evo, I've done eBay. I'll probably find something else in the space that'll work too. At least hopefully that's the thought.
So you said that if you had to start over, you would go the live streaming route. Um, I recently had Pokey and Eon, and he obviously started his business with importing Japanese products and selling those. Do you think one strategy is better than the other in today's market? Or do you think that just selling packs and slabs and cards would also work?
So many things could work. That is what I would do specifically. But as far as like that is not what I would advise everyone to do. By definition, like everyone can't do one thing, right?
Hmm.
I know of people that are full time making a good wage just with like a Roka sorter and a TCG player account, and they're just hustling, grinding in bulk and things like that. I know of people who run consignment services. I do have a wing of my business that's a consignment service, but I know of people who are nameless and faceless. They have no Instagram following, they have no YouTube following, and they use consignment services like mine. They use Probstein, they use Z&G Emporium, they use DC Sports 87. And I know of people with multi seven figure sales annually. You wouldn't know their name. You wouldn't know what they look like. They have no brand, no name, no nothing. And they are crushing in the background, in the shadows, in the alleys. They are crushing, just buying collections, having a good eye for should this go to CGC for the pristine? Should I try to black label? Should I go to PSA? So a lot of it comes down to like, where is your expertise and what do you enjoy? And I think one of the best things that I've been is a sourcer over my 11 years. I think I'm a good savvy buyer, and I think I have the ability to get better prices on the buying side than many people. And I still do the collection flips. I still do liquidity too. One thing I talk about a lot that a lot of people are lacking in this space. A lot of people spend to zero so they don't pay any taxes. That whole cash basis thing. Spend to zero, have no cash. They don't have the liquidity when good opportunities come along. I try to stay liquid and I try to stay nimble so that I can take down those big collections and things like that.
Yeah, I think liquidity is a big tip. Just in any business, you need to have some sort of capital to make moves if an opportunity arises.
Yep. And I know like hearing that can be like, oh yeah, it's easy. Just have a ton of money. Um, I didn't start out with a ton of money. Like literally everything I have. If you watch my YouTube videos, 4 years. If you heard earlier, I've opened every box from every set. I opened a Skyridge box, Neo Destiny box. Everything I started with $5,000 of seed money. In 2014, I took $5,000 out of my personal account. I put it into a separate account for like the collection account. At the time, it wasn't even a business account. It was just the collection account. It was the hobby account, whatever. And everything I have today is the result of $5,000 seed money plus thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of passion and just like grinding. So anyone can do it. You're not going to get to where like you had Pokemon on before. You're having me like you're not going to get to where we are in one go with $5,000, obviously, but don't skip out on all we did to get to where we are as well. And I truly think I've been asked this before, and maybe I'm preempting you asking it, but I think someone starting with $5,000 today and putting in the same time, effort, energy that I did, and guys like Brian did, and guys like Z&G Emporium, and I think you could build something massive over the next 10 years, just like we did.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's all about, at least what I've heard from everyone who's in positions like you and Brian with Pokey and all the other big players. It's all about consistency more than anything.
Yep. And
So,
one thing I'll say too is like I did a video a year or two ago, my 10-year history over Pokemon. And it started with like however many 10,000, 30,000, 50,000 in sales to 100 to the first year that I did 1 million. And there are people today, the market is at a size and liquidity is at a level where you can't do it in a week or a month or a year, but you can get to where I am way quicker than I did. The market from 2014 to 2019 didn't allow people, and maybe some people did, the exception, but the sheer amount of people, dozens of people, hundreds of people forming seven-figure annual businesses like this, like within a year. It's actually crazy the market that we currently exist in and the opportunity that it affords to people.
Yeah, I've seen. I mean, I'm sure everyone has seen like all of the YouTube videos popping up of my six-figure Pokemon card business and how a new business did six figures or more in just 12
Mm-hmm.
months.
Mm-hmm.
Um, moving on to the next question, this goes back to platforms like eBay and TCG Player. A lot of people hate on those platforms because of the fees. What is your take on that?
Yeah, Feebay is what they call it. I've heard.
Yeah.
I like one thing is you don't have to pay it. If you don't like eBay, if you don't like TCG Player, you can do the grind on Instagram, Facebook. You can do the grind on different subreddits and whatever. Me personally, I've always said that like they're cheap. They're cheap for what they do when you really think about it. I know Brian. I can't remember if you covered it in your live stream with him, but Brian has some really good videos on like Tax Nexus. He has
Hmm.
some really good videos on the amount of money and how to run ad campaigns and the amount of money that he spends on ads to on Instagram, on Google, on wherever to advertise his store to add, and having to learn how to do that and certain keywords. And I never had to do any of that. All that was done for me by eBay, by Fanatics, by the platform. Yes, you're paying them. Fanatics is 9%. eBay is 13%, I think, without a store, 12% with a store. But everything they're giving you for that, millions of buyers, all the tax, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically handling all
Withholdings?
the tax, yeah, all the tax withholdings, all the tax compliance. That's the word I was looking for.
Mm.
All the tax compliance stuff built in. Whereas Brian has to go and like, oh, I just hit Nexus in California. I just hit Nexus in Texas, and he has to pay a company. So like, if you add, and I think maybe if Brian listens back to this, if he ever went through and he just did like, hey, here's a year where I sold $5 million worth of stuff, but I spent 50 grand on Instagram ads and I spent 10 grand on tax compliance that eBay would have done. If you start adding all that stuff up, I think it would be less than 12% that eBay charges, but how much less would it be? And if and when you got to a level on eBay, I never got there, sadly, but if and when you ever got to a level on eBay where you're getting contracted with them, some people aren't paying 12%.
Mm.
Some people are paying 3%, 5%, 6%, things like that. So I'm quite confident that Brian, with all the things that he's paying, he's probably paying more. Well, he's definitely paying more than like a Probstein. Probstein sells hundreds of millions of dollars a year. They probably have a 3% eBay fee or something. They're probably paying the same that Brian's paying on Wix, I believe he uses. And
Hmm.
they're getting all the tax compliance and they're getting all that package. But that's because obviously they're doing 8 figures in sales, which is atypical.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I don't really buy into all of the hate just because of everything you get, like everything that your fees pay for, essentially. Like you're getting a
Mhm.
lot for what you're paying.
And
Um,
one last thing I'll add too, like oftentimes if you go and you sell at a convention or if you sell in Instagram DMs, a lot of times they're like, hey, market's 1,000, let's do 90%. Well, that's a 10% haircut right there. So oftentimes you're doing like, here's the basis of market. They'll have the expectation of like, hey, this isn't eBay. Hey, this isn't. We want to work down from the 100%, and that's not always the rule. Like sometimes there are exceptions. Sometimes you can get 100%, take out all the fees, but it's way more tedious. You list 1,000 things on eBay. You go to sleep. You wake up in the morning. Boom, 30 orders. Here's their address. Print out the labels. Boom, done. It's a lot less tedious than selling one by one through direct messages or whatever.
yeah, and especially through social media, like I don't ever see anyone get 100% market for what they're peddling. Like everyone
No.
always has a counter. No one wants to pay 100%. It's crazy. Which I
Yeah.
mean, fair enough. You're buying from Joe Schmo on Facebook, so you also don't
Yeah.
have all the buyer protection.
Yep.
All right, this one is getting into advice. If a new Pokemon business owner paid you for one piece of advice, what is the single most important piece of advice you would give them?
I feel like, again, I'm bad at picking favorites, but I definitely have like top three videos, like top three pieces of advice. I'll try to behave here. I'll try to just pick one. Um, I think doing things legitimately, and I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm gonna make like one A, B, C. Doing things legitimately. If you are intending to make money in this space, if you're collecting and you're gonna be a net buyer and you never really try to make money, you might sell things from time to time because your collection goals change. It's a little bit of a different conversation. It would still be cleaner to like separate things. But what I mean by do things legitimately, if you're trying to make money, you are by IRS definitions a business. You should have a resale certificate. In New York, it's called a resale certificate. Every state calls it something different. But you should have a business license or a certificate of authority or a business certificate, and you should have a separate bank account. You shouldn't be buying your groceries and buying your whatever things you're buying in your like day-to-day expenses. You shouldn't be buying your Pokemon cards intended for resale on those same credit cards. You should separate it out because I when I started in Pokemon, I had all my ducks in a row with that because before Pokemon, I used to buy and sell Steins, and I used to buy and sell
Mm.
coins, and I used to buy and sell different things. So I made those mistakes pre Pokemon. But when I got to Pokemon, it's like, hey, here's a separate bank account, and it makes things so clean come tax time. In separate eBay, separate everything, bank account, credit card. If you have separate everything, you pull a report at the end of the year, and there's no guesswork. There's no sorting. There's no cleanup. It's just like, these are my buys. These are my sells. Here's what that amounts to. Here's what I owe in taxes. Here, like, it's so clean. It's so nice. And I cringe every time I hear it. When people are like in the space as a business, as an investor, whatever they call themselves, something where profit is the motive. And I hear them talking about sales tax. I hear them talking about paying sales tax. You're putting yourself at such a disadvantage. Like I'm in New York. It's one thing if you live in Oregon, if you live in who else doesn't have it? New Hampshire. There's a few states that don't have sales tax. But if you live in a state like me, my county tax is like 9.75%.
Oh
So
wow.
if everything I bought, I was paying an additional 9.75%, I'm putting myself at such a disadvantage. There's tons of collections over the years that I've bought. There's tons of purchases that I've made where my entire net margin at the end of the day was 10% or less. So
Hmm.
it's like if I buy a $10,000 collection and I pay a $975 sales tax, I might now break even or lose a little bit instead of profiting $900, $950. So please do things legitimately, do things above board, legitimize yourself, separate everything, and that's my number one by far. Like that is the thing you need to do. Like literally legally, you need to do that.
Yeah, the IRS is not you don't want to mess around with the IRS.
No.
They have the gun, so to speak. They will take your money, they will put a lien on your house.
Yeah.
um
I remember that came up in Brian's, right? He had a lien. He did talk about some of that. Brian has a great backlog on all the tax compliance stuff, and he has some interesting anecdotes to share for sure.
yeah, I think it was one of the states that he didn't pay the sales tax.
Pennsylvania or something. If I
I
remember
was thinking
correctly.
Pennsylvania as well, so that
Yeah,
must be it.
I know early on I made the mistakes. Like I made the same mistakes too, and I remember doing my taxes with my accountant in like 2010 or 2011. And I took the papers to him, had no idea what I was doing. Some things were bought personal, some things were business, and I separated out. It was a mess. Um, I was not collecting at the time. This was pre eBay collecting and remitting sales taxes. I spent a year or two selling on eBay without collecting and remitting sales taxes. Most people did the same thing. Most people didn't do this, but like I talked to my accountant, he's like, "Oh, you haven't been doing this?" I'm like, "Oh crap, no, I was supposed to." And I paid like 3 or 4 grand. Luckily, it hadn't been much at the time yet, but I paid 3 or 4 grand in taxes and penalties and interest on what I should have paid. The amount of effort and energy to go back and back calculate what I should have been collecting and remitting, and it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare, and these days, thankfully, FeeBay wraps that into their fee, so they're doing that for you, and you don't even have to worry about that anymore. if you're dealing with eBay.
Yeah, yeah, eBay takes care of it all. I know selling on TCG Player, since I'm not a brick and mortar, I still have to keep track of Nexus, which I'm not doing enough volume to worry about that, except for selling in Ohio. I have to make sure I report that on my, I think I do it semi-annually, sales tax
Hmm.
stuff that I have to file.
Yep.
Um, I did get a quick uh, question in chat here asking if we think TCG Player will raise fees or if eBay will try to like choke out TCG Player since they own the platform now, or what we think will happen there.
I don't have like any insider info. I genuinely don't know. I've sold a little bit on TCG Player, but I'm not nearly as like expert on the platform as I am on eBay. I think that they'll keep them separate. I think that they serve different purposes largely, but what they should do, in my opinion, is, and they've done a little bit of it, I think, they should bring the eBay standard envelope over to TCG Player. Like that's a glaring benefit. That's a glaring bonus to the TCG Player platform, and they should bring a lot of the back end seller tools from eBay to TCG Player as well. Maybe someday they just like gobble, like obviously they own it, but maybe someday they just absorb that into the eBay ecosystem. I would lean towards them not doing that. I think there's benefits to keeping it separate, but like please eBay, bring some of the efficiencies over there. It's insane some of the things that you can't do on TCG Player that just feel so obvious, feel so easy.
Yeah, and I know that with pro accounts and certain higher level like access accounts, you get more tools. But just being like a regular seller or a level 4 seller, even like there's still so much that is left to be desired, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever I'm trying to say there. There's just so much that's missing from all of the reporting tools. It just doesn't give you a whole lot of information.
And L Dubs mentions a good point. Like TCG Player doesn't even natively have the ability to ship within the platform, which is insane. You need to like go to Pirate Ship, or you need to print out the invoice and then have the windowed envelope so the address shows. It's crazy to me that they don't have that built in. eBay obviously has the build out. It's all there. I'm not a tech guy whatsoever, but like it feels like a couple of years they've owned them already. It feels like you could marry the systems and make it work and make it better for everyone. But eBay moves slow. There are lots of red tape, I'm sure. They're a publicly
Hmm.
traded company. There's a lot of things they need to go through there, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. The native shipping is a big one because I use stamps.com for my TCG player orders, just because I don't want to deal with printing out on printer paper and folding it up like origami and stuffing an envelope. So
Yeah.
I can just print it with my thermal printer and just
Yep.
slap it on an envelope and send it out the door.
Yep.
Um, other than skipping out on separating expenses and making sure that everything is legitimate, what is another big mistake you see new Pokemon businesses make all the time?
Um I think that's definitely the biggest one. And I see Beta Investments mentions, love you, Dan, but you're pushing tax exemption for most people is trying to save pennies and missing out on dollars. I entirely disagree because, like, I work from my home and my overhead is literally negative. Like, I own this home and I originally bought it when I was an engineer, and like I need somewhere to live anyways. So now that I'm doing business outside of my home, now things that wouldn't have otherwise been a deduction become a deduction. Whatever percentage of my home square footage is used exclusively for business now becomes a write-off. A percentage of my internet now becomes a write-off. A percentage of my utilities, all that stuff, becomes a write-off. It literally subsidizes the life that I am living anyways, costs that I would have incurred anyways. But another mistake that people make, I think I actually just recorded my video that's coming out this upcoming Monday. But I think a lot of people come in, and I made this mistake too. Like I am not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I literally made all the same mistakes that I'm recapping and recounting for newer people. But people come in hot. People come in like, I gotta spend, spend, spend. I gotta do something. I'm standing here at the plate. Pitchers are going by me. I've been saying a lot lately what Warren Buffett says. There are no called strikes in Pokemon. Whether you're collecting, investing, whether you're like running a business or not, I think it's good to just come in, take a deep breath, watch a few YouTube videos, read a few Instagram stories, and follow some accounts and see what's all out there. Like it's been around for 25 plus years, going on 30 years from the Japanese release next year. Um, you don't have to catch them all at once. You can't physically catch them all at once. So like just start slow and then learn and go from there. There's plenty of time. There's plenty of things to collect. There's plenty of things to arbitrage on if you're a business. Like I'm kind of speaking to, I know some people are purely collectors and some people are purely businesses, and some people don't really actively sell. They just buy, they hold, they invest, they plan to
Hmm.
sell years down the line. So there's a lot of different levels of engagement.
Yeah,
Oh, and beta investment mentions like, yeah, if people are literally just collecting, um, oh, but you meant like if your motive is profit, this is not like my advice. This is literally just the law, like the IRS. If you are making money and you are intending to make money, you are a business. Uncle Sam wants his cut. If you do things correctly, you, especially cash basis filing, you really like you are disadvantaging yourself not doing things above board. You are literally breaking the law and you are doing it to your own detriment. That's like full stop. That's non-negotiable. A lot of times I say things that are opinions. This is just like matter of fact, statement of fact. It like you're doing things illegally if you're not getting fully above board, and you're costing yourself so many things. People fear tax, people fear fees, and it's to their own detriment, I promise you. Because done the right way, you don't have to pay much of any taxes at all, being cash basis, reinvesting things, like being a net buyer, especially at the beginning parts.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
L Dubs
and
just
L Dubs,
mentioned.
yeah.
Sorry, L Dubs mentioned that investing with tax exemption has saved them a ton of money too. So I guess that just.
Yeah, like if you're paying sales tax on items intended for resale, literally by the letter of the law, you're doing it wrong and you're doing it to your own detriment. I promise. I made a lot of videos on the topic. If anyone wants to go check those out. I don't want to turn this into a 2 hour conversation out of that because I've already talked dozens of hours on it on my channel.
Yeah, I completely agree though. I started my business January 1 and I was up till midnight New Year's Eve. I mean, I guess everyone is, but what I was doing is I was waiting for the clock to tick over to 12:01 so I could file for my LLC in the new year.
Mm-hmm.
And I could get that deduction on the 2025 taxes. So I completely agree with doing it all above board. Yeah, tax evasion sounds like an awful idea. Tax avoidance, when it's legal, is definitely a good idea.
Yeah, tax avoidance is good business. Tax evasion will get you in jail.
Yeah. All right. Switching over to questions about your business now.
Mm-hmm.
How exactly is your business structured? I know you mentioned that you have a couple streamers that you supply cards for. Are you, and you mentioned that they're contractors. Are they literally 1099 contractors?
Yep. Yep. I send them the product and they build out the streams. They set their own hours. And I've spoken with my accountant on 1099 versus W2, and I'm
Hmm.
ensuring that I'm dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's on the proper business to independent contractor relationship. Because if you do things a certain way, and if you cross certain lines, you can actually venture into the W-2 territory, and now you need to do the payroll taxes, you need to do all that, and it would significantly increase my amount of red tape that I have to wade through, or more properly, my accountants have to wade through. But it's just not something I'm interested in. My streamers are remote as well, so I ship the stuff to them. We don't have like a stream house. We don't have a stream office that everyone meets up at every morning and we plan out our day. It's literally just like I keep track from what I've sent to them minus what we do through our sales, and I've got a spreadsheet that roughly shows me what inventory they have as new sets come out. Destined Rivals, I feed them the new inventory. So that's like the main thing of my business. And then the other aspects are like I do buy collections and I grade and I sell through Fanatics and I sell a little bit through Probstein. I consign myself with Z&G Emporium a little bit here and there. So I do a lot of different things in the space all at once.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, the 1099 versus W2 gets really confusing because I've looked into it just a little bit out of curiosity. I know like part of it is like how much control you oh, let me do that.
Oh, is your camera moving?
Yeah, it zoomed in like real close on my face. I accidentally put up the hand gesture.
Oh, I see it now on the live stream. That's funny.
um, but yeah, I know it has in part due in part of it is due to like how much control you exert over the contractor that could make them an employee and all of the other stuff that goes into it. Like I'm no expert by any means, but it seems
Yeah,
confusing.
nor am I, but I basically paid for an hour of my accountant's time, and I'm like, I want to do a consult on. I plan on launching this live streaming business, and I want to ensure that I am properly treating them as 1099 contractors, and like, here's what I intend to do, and I laid out the whole process, and they're like, well, and I don't remember the exact conversation. Somewhere I would have notes or whatever, like. There were certain things that they said, oh, well, you can do that, but you have to be careful to not XYZ. And but yeah, I'm set up where they're independent contractors, and not saying that I won't ever have employees, but I don't intend to ever. I've always liked having freedom. I
Hmm.
personally would enjoy more being an independent contractor myself. So like that's one common theme throughout my content. Like I make the content that I would enjoy to consume myself. I want to generate employment, the kind of employment that I would like to have myself. Like throwing myself back in time 11 years ago, if I could have had the opportunity in the early days to stream for someone else and make a good hourly wage, and they're free to do whatever else they want to do. They're free to buy and sell. They're free to compete with me through some extent. Obviously, like they can do whatever they want. So yeah, that's the way I like to have it set up.
Yeah, the I bet that was the best hour of time you've ever paid for.
Oh, very good ROI. And I actually do consults. We talked about earlier, like some of the advice that I would give. I don't advertise it heavily, but like I do consults from time to time. And some of the questions, some of the like intent people have come into our conversations with, it's like the amount of time, the amount of effort, the amount of energy, the amount of penalties and fees I've saved them, veering them back on course. And my accountant charges a lot more than I charge for my consults. And the couple $100 that I paid to ensure that I was being steered on course. Yeah, the amount of headaches, the amount of issues it saved, very well worth it. Very solid ROI on that investment.
In regards to your business, are you comfortable sharing like any sort of like really rough numbers on revenue?
Yeah, yeah. So I literally have a video. I think every year since 2022, I think I've done a video detailing like what I sold the prior year and what my goals are for the next year. And uh I want to say 2022 was a little over a million. And I think 2021 was the first year over a million. 2022 was like a little bit higher. And 2024, if I remember correctly, was about 3 million between all platforms. And mind you, that's not like all my own cards. I do consignments. So like some amount of that, a decent amount of that is consignor cards being sold, and the amount of margin that I make on a consignment sale, very, very minimal. My like I net out 95% on sales above $2,400. So 5% is what I'm eating out of and what Fanatics is eating out of. I make very, very small margins on that. And then the live streaming is like a higher margin, but my gross number this year will likely be around $5 million between the live streaming, between the consignments, between the stuff that I sell myself, all aspects of it. About 5 million is what I'm headed for.
That's pretty substantial. North of 50% growth year over year.
Yeah, yeah. The consigning is like it makes the bigger numbers easier to extend. I think of the 3 million, almost a million was consignments. So about a third
Okay.
of what I did last year was consignments. This year, I actually haven't run the numbers in a little bit. I did start doing like a new service in my consignment that is really pumping the numbers pretty solid. So I'll have to like update my forecast because I didn't even know that was going to be an option. Basically, I take in raw cards, they get CGC graded, and then they sell on Fanatics. And that's a pretty high, it's a low value thing on average. My margins are very low on it, but it's high volume. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing 500 to 1,000 cards a week, which I mean, if they
Oh
were selling
wow.
for like if they're selling for 20 bucks each, that's $20,000 a week. That's $1 million a year right there in that new service that launched a month or two ago. So yeah, five is probably like comfortably what will be done. Maybe it'll be six, maybe it'll be more. I guess we'll see where the year ends up. We'll see where the market ends up too. Like it's still hot. It's hotter than I would have guessed it would be, at the current moment.
Um, you said you set revenue goals for every year. Is 5 million your goal for this year, or is it something bigger, smaller?
Yeah, I think 5 million is what I had set. I have a terrible memory. I would need to go back and find my notes from my January video. But yeah, I did somewhere on my channel it would be like 2025 plans and goals and business strategy. I'm pretty sure I think I might have set 4 to 5 as like my range for my goal. I'm very big on former engineer, smart goals, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time based, all that good stuff. So I always do set goals for myself, my business.
That's awesome. Do you have an end goal for your business at all? To one day sell, sit on something and trickle it out? Anything like that?
I Financial independence has been a goal for a long time, and I've always been a saver. Like going back to even predating me being in the workforce, predating me graduating high school. Like I used to work with my dad, and I've always been a big saver. And in college, early into my career, I enjoyed what I did, but I just knew that I wasn't built for doing it for 40 years. Kind of like the typical thing that people do is you go to school from K to 12 and that's 12, 13 years right there. And then you go anywhere between 2 and 8 years for your degree. You're in school 15 to 20 years of your life, and then you go into the real world and you go get a job and you do that for 40 or 50 years. And that to me just felt crazy. I didn't really like the idea of it. I don't envision myself ever like fully retiring and being on a golf course every day or being on a beach every day and doing nothing. But I like to have the freedom to be able to do that if I want to. Or if like something happens to me and I get injured and I can't work anymore. The thought of having that financial security to take care of the family and all that. So the end goal of my business is financial independence. And with how crazy the market's been, I'm not like very far off. At 35, I'm knocking on the door of full Bill Bengen 4% rule financial independence, which is crazy to think and it's crazy to say. Um, so yeah, financial independence is the end goal. And what I've been doing as I've approached it, I've just been shedding the tasks that I don't like as much. I didn't 99% of consumer interactions on eBay, on TCG Player, on wherever, they go fine. The people buy the thing, they don't even send a message. You print the label, you ship it, boom, you never hear from them. Sometimes you get positive feedback, sometimes they just don't even leave feedback. 99% of the time it's fine. But that 1%, it would really get to me sometimes. It's like, man, some of those 1% issues that would pop up would just be really frustrating. And now I've kind of insulated myself from that with independent contractors. I found other businesses that wanted to do the selling aspect. And I like live streaming, but not
Hmm.
selling. I don't like being a salesman in that fashion. I like this. I like talking about the hobby, talking about the business, talking about life, talking about lawnmowers, whatever. Um, I I like doing it 5 hours or so a week between my channel, my podcast, between guest appearances on things like this. 5 hours a week maybe is like a good number for me. PK, my like full time, he quit his job to do streaming. He streams like 45 hours a week. And thankfully, like he loves it. He loves it. I couldn't do that. I don't have the energy. I'm not good at the salesman aspect of it, but he crushes it. Ponga crushes it too. Like I couldn't do it to the level, to the extent they are. But yeah, so my end goals are simultaneously having a good time, hopefully being a positive presence on the people, the customers, the businesses I engage with, and then financial independence. And I think I've done a good job so far, largely guided and that opportunity being afforded to me by the boom that we're in, by the market that we're in. Like some of it is my own doing, but a lot of it is just the market, the insane, absurd market that we're in. I am not ashamed. I'm not shy to say that luck is a heavy factor in everything I have and where I'm at today.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. I think that's just being realistic, because like
Mm,
even in a bad market, even the best laid plans can turn to just a mess. So I think
yep.
being realistic and being like, well, I've prepared and I've, done my grinding and I've done this and done that, but the market boom just really exploded all of my hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like an exponential factor, just like rocket fuel added to the whole thing.
uh Skipping ahead here, since we hit on the financial independence stuff. Um
Hmm.
are you One thing that drew me to your content was your Pokemon investing flowchart, I think it was, where you talk about like getting out of debt. Yep, there it
This.
is.
Yeah. My buckets, I call them.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Here, let me full screen you. Put that back up real
Oh,
quick. There we
okay.
go. Now everyone can see them. So the budgeting, reducing expenses, emergency fund. I think that is a huge one that people
Yep.
love to skip. Um, Employer 401k match or whatever retirement plan they have, etc. I think all of that is fantastic, and that is what like really drew me to your content. Um,
Mm.
so, with that said, I wanted to get into some of the more like finer details of that. Do you think it's necessary that people max out their Roth IRA first before investing in Pokemon, or just contribute to it?
So I personally I have some Roth and I have some traditional. I went Roth years ago when my income was lower for one reason or the other.
Mm-hmm.
We my wife and I have two kids, and for both children, she actually took a year off work. Well, I think she did a year for one and then like a year and a half for the other. The second one was during the pandemic and all that, so I think she even wanted more to be like out of work during that time. But during that time, our dual income household was now a single income household, and our joint joint household income was lower, so we were in a lower
Mm-hmm.
tax bracket. So in the time that we were in a lower tax bracket, I was generally going more Roth. And today, like 2024, 2025, I'm making a lot more money than I would have expected. I'm making more money than I did back when I was an engineer. And I'm at much higher tax brackets, and it might not be the very optimal thing, but I'm going more traditional these days because um I don't know how deep down the rabbit hole you want to get, but one thing about tax savings is on the front end, you're saving at your marginal rates top down, and on
Hmm.
the back end in retirement, you're spending into them. You're withdrawing from them bottom up. So if I'm making six figures of income these days, that's at 27, 34, depending on your state, depending on all the different things, that's at higher levels. Whereas in retirement, like my household, I have one video that I made a year ago. I'm actually going to do an update to it soon, probably in July. My annual household spending is like 60 grand a year. We
Oh wow.
live frugally. We live quite cheap. That's a family of four. Caveat, we have no debt. We have no car payment. We have no mortgage. So like it's 60K without a mortgage, without a car, like without student loans, with no debt whatsoever. But like that's everything. That's all our groceries. That's all our travel. That's all of our maintenance on the vehicles, maintenance on the house. Like that's everything. Um, and if we're making six figures of income today, and then decades from now in retirement, we'll only be withdrawing five figures to maintain our lifestyle. So
Hmm.
my thinking is save the large percentage top down, pay the small percentage bottom up. That's so I just wanted to cover the whole Roth versus traditional thing. But and everything that I say, aside from the one thing I said that was objective statement of fact, this is more like opinion. This is more depending on your situation. Um,
Oh, and
I
disclaimer:
personally,
none of this is financial advice.
yeah,
For
not financial advice. But what I do personally, I don't put any money into Pokemon until I say until all my buckets are filled, the buckets that I showed earlier. So I have no debt. I have the emergency fund built. What I include in my buckets is I'm my own employer. So I do provide a 25% match to my retirement savings from, I mean, it's me doing it, but like I'm putting
yeah.
in a 25% employer match because I can. And I max out my 401ks. I max out my IRAs. My wife maxes out all of hers too. So not everyone's going to be in a certain spot where they could do that. 11 years ago, when I started in the hobby, I was only my third year as a chemical engineer. So I took 5 grand out of my finances, I wasn't maxing my 401k that year. I was, though, I was debt free aside from my mortgage at the time. And I did get my full employer match, and I did like before I would touch Pokemon. I would definitely, and again, this is me for me. People can do what they wish, but I would and always did take my employer match, and I didn't have 30% credit cards, and I didn't have 10% car loans, student loans, whatever. So yeah, that was my general. The buckets. You fill the first one, and when that one overflows, you go to the next one, next one, next one. And for me, everything I do in Pokemon, if you've watched my palette videos, if you watch like all my investing in Pokemon, operating my entire business in Pokemon, that's once every other bucket is full and overflowing. That's with all the extra money.
Gotcha. Yeah, even though it's not financial advice, I think it is pretty solid advice. Um, I
And I see JB Kane's talking about Roth conversion ladders. Absolutely. Like early retirement, years potentially where I have no income or lower income, you do those Roth conversions. Now you've not paid tax up front. It's like a supercharged Roth because a traditional, like, it's a weird way to say it, but like a traditional Roth setup, you're earning income, you're paying taxes on that income, you're putting it into a Roth. But if you retire early, you put it in traditional. Now at like 50,
mhm.
you retire early, you earn no income, you you do a Roth conversion on an amount that gobbles up your standard deduction and that gobbles up your 0% tax rates
Yeah.
basically. So you can be entire like you that is tax avoidance in its purest form. That is avoiding taxes to where you're literally paying 0% taxes on your income. That's why, going back to what was the name, beta investments, that's why doing things above board, like it's fairly like in the weeds, it's fairly down the rabbit hole of talking to your accountant and planning your taxes and all that, but it can really supercharge your savings, it can supercharge your finances if you do things like that.
Yeah, and even if you're not converting at 0%, it's still like very possible to convert within like the 12% bracket. Um,
And
my
yep,
wife and I just
that's
did a sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, yeah, I was just gonna say like that's I have thoughts on what 10, 20 years from now might look like, but life can happen. You never know what's going to happen. Even if like, even if I'm not doing it tax free entirely, because I'm still doing Pokemon, and maybe the Pokemon market continues to be hot. Maybe I still have live streamers working for me. Maybe I think that some year I'm only going to be making 25 grand a year. Maybe I'm fortunate enough to be working 10 hours a week and making 100 grand a year doing it or something. Like who knows? So maybe things will end up having been suboptimal once I have hindsight, but you can't know that. So I'm trying to do things the best I can with the information I have as of today, and we'll see where it all takes me. So, and sorry to cut you off there. Go ahead on.
Oh, I was just saying that my wife and I did a Roth conversion for her 401k rollover. She left a previous employer. The 401k got put in a rollover IRA, and then we threw that in a Roth IRA, and then just paid the 12% or less than that income taxes on it. Um, so it all worked out, and we paid like a few $100s for several grand of conversions that will grow into a lot more tax free because we are in our late 20s, so we still have plenty of time before retirement.
Yep. Yeah. I know some people are very like they're 100% Roth IRA with all of it, and I understand the sentiment behind some of it, but I kind of hedge. It's kind of a meme on my channel that I'm on the fence on a lot of things. I do some Roth, I do some traditional. I'm very much on the fence in that aspect as well.
Well, and that way you can control your income to an extent when you're retired.
One thing I mentioned when I'm talking about this too is like, and again, I don't know if I'm going to do this, but envision like retiring and you have half your stuff in Roth and half in traditional. One nice thing is like, say you want to buy a boat and you want to live on a boat in retirement. If you want to say you want to go on a massive vacation, you want to buy some big lump sum thing. If you have only traditional, now you've got to take out all that stuff and you have like you buy $1 million retirement home. Now you have to pay at the highest rate for that $1 million thing. Well, if you've got half in Roth and half traditional, now you can do your lump sum stuff. You can buy your boat, you can buy your whatever crazy thing you're going to do. Do that from your Roth. There's no taxes on that whatsoever. And then do your daily living, do your daily expenses, bottom up, fill that 0% bucket, your standard deduction, maybe go to the 10, 12%, wherever you're comfortable. It really affords like a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And JB Canes commented about the backdoor Roth conversions. Yes, we made sure to empty out the rollover IRA and close it because we do not want another IRA other than a Roth, just in case we decide to do backdoor in the future.
See, so that's one thing I have excluded myself from. I have excluded myself from doing what's it called, the pro rata rule or something.
Yeah.
I know enough to be dangerous, but I don't know like all, but since I have so much in traditional IRAs, I really couldn't ever do a backdoor Roth IRA. So like that's one aspect right now too. I'm making too much to do a
Hmm.
traditional Roth IRA. I'm above the income thresholds for it. So I'm kind of stuck in the traditional thing. But my whole thing is like I'm at the higher brackets anyways. So I don't even want to do a backdoor Roth IRA. I'd rather just be traditional. But some people are like Roth or bust, and I understand it. There's arguments for it. A lot of it is like it's arbitraging and it's gambling on what future tax rates will be, and
Yeah.
we don't really know. We have no way of knowing. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's it really is just up in the air as to what everyone decides in the future. Um,
yep.
this is just a quick question. Are you familiar with the Money Guy show at all? It's a YouTube channel. They're financial advisors in Tennessee.
I think I came across them in the past year or so. The whole bucket thing. I meant to say this when I had it up, but the bucket thing. These are not my own. I mentioned it in my video. I'm one that's big on like quoting my sources. I used to be bigger on Reddit, probably when I had a 9 to 5. Now that it's my own time, I don't use Reddit as much. But the personal finance subreddit. This is called the personal income spending flowchart. that came from the it's from the wiki on the personal finance subreddit. So shout out to the people over there at the personal finance subreddit. Uh, so that was not my own making, but I got it from them. And the financial order of operations is very similar. It's their own. It's the guy's own take on it. And I think Dave
Mm-hmm.
Ramsey has his baby steps. He calls them, right. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of different finance creators have their own version of the buckets, the financial order of operations, the baby steps, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna bring up the foo because that's what your buckets reminded me of was
Yep.
the financial order of operations from the Money Guy show is a 9-step process, whereas Dave's and I think your buckets are both 7. Um,
Yeah,
next
and I think
question.
they
Oh,
all it's right in the name, personal finance, right? All of them are
yeah.
very personal, and certain people will prioritize different things. Very much things that you should. And I think a lot of people go through life just like coasting through life, not really thinking about it. That the bank account does what the bank account does. I think a lot of people would benefit from being more conscious about their spending, their saving, their like a lot of people don't even know what's like. I remember talking to old coworkers. Some of them weren't even in the 401k, not getting the employer match, not even knowing what a 401k was. It's like, guys, this is your money. This is your financial future. And it's crazy how many people just have a very, very like ignorant. I'll I, I'll let future me worry about that stance on it all.
Yeah. Yeah, the I mean, I hate tomorrow me as much as the next guy, but that's taking it to a whole new level.
Yeah, 25. I talked to the people in my HR at my former company, and 25% of the company, we were when I left, it was 1,000 employee company. 250 people didn't take the match. The way my former employer worked, if you put in 1%, they'd match the 1% 100%. So you'd get two basically for your one, but you'd also get profit sharing. So putting
Mm,
in one on average for the 10 years I was there, you'd get five. So like if you made 50
wow.
grand a year, you'd put in $500, they'd turn it into $2,500. And there were people that weren't doing that. It's like, what's going on here? And they were talking about investing in Pokemon and crypto and this and that. And it's like, guys, you're leaving free money on the table. What are we doing here?
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy. You can't beat a 500% return.
Yeah. Like I don't care about evolving skies. I don't care about Van Gogh Pikachu. Like they don't touch that. Especially add in the tax compound, add in like all the benefits, all the things that the 401k gets afforded.
Um, next question here. I would assume this is a yes, just based on the conversation. But do you track your net worth?
I do. I use spreadsheets primarily. I use Google Sheets,
Mm-hmm.
but I also use Quick. It's made by Quicken, the people who do QuickBooks. But I use Simplify. It's called. I use the app. I tie it to all my credit cards and stuff, and not for the business stuff, but for the personal stuff. It's handy. I probably only go in like quarterly or so, but I do have a rough idea where I'm at.
Gotcha. Do you have a rough idea for what percentage of that is Pokemon, and are you willing to share?
I am. I'm very transparent. I'm very open. It's about half. It feels irresponsibly high, but it's also like my business.
Yeah.
Between the investment pallets that I have, that little like joint venture with my dad, all the packs that PK and Ponga have, the inventory that Sky has, the live streamers, and then everything I have backlog stuff from years ago. It it's a lot. And traditional stuff I thought was going to pass it last year. And then the market just started booming. And Pokemon went from being like 51% to maybe it's like almost 60% again. Not because I'm trying to make it that, because it's just performing so obscenely. And the way that I've been doing it so far, I really don't have much. And this might change soon. I don't have much in like brokerage accounts. It's
Mm,
almost all tax sheltered. It's almost all, and I see JB Kane's talking about solo 401ks. That's what I do have. I have solo 401k with KetchumAll Collectibles Incorporated, and so does my wife because she's actually the vice president of KetchumAll Collectibles Incorporated. Um, but I max out all that stuff, but that can only hold so much, right?
Yeah.
There's a limit. What is it? 23,500, and then 25% employer match. And so once those are done, as of right now, all the rest goes into Pokemon. I'm contemplating later this year potentially starting up a brokerage account and having some like not tax advantage stuff because all the tax advantage buckets are filled. Um, I'm still on the fence, and at some point, my level of transparency, I'll be talking about it on YouTube if and when I do it. But as of right now, it's like it's all tax advantage, and then I own my home. I don't really factor that stuff because it's like non-productive net worth. My house is productive in that it might appreciate over time, and that I don't pay rent, but I mean,
Hmm.
property taxes kind of feel like rent in and of themselves. But
Yeah.
you own it, but you don't really own it because you're still renting it from you're renting the land. Uh, but yeah, I'm gonna try to get it to where Pokemon's less than half, but Pokemon hasn't allowed that to happen yet because it just keeps going up too much.
Yeah, that's fair. It looks like JB Canes here is talking about uh, strategies for rolling over IRAs into the solo 401k. And then I may be off base here, but I believe you could always increase the employer match part of your 401k to increase how much you're setting aside. Because I
So
think the total limit
60 something
is,
thousand.
yeah.
So theoretically, between me and my wife, we could do like $130,000, or even more than that. I think if we maxed it out. But one benefit of an S corporation, I love how much we're talking about taxes here. What one benefit of an S corporation is that I'm avoiding the payroll taxes. So instead of if I
Mm,
was a sole proprietor, I would be making everything, and I would be paying FICA taxes up to the limit.
yeah.
Being an S corporation, I pay myself a reasonable salary. And that reasonable salary is less than the FICA limit and is less than I would be making if I was a sole proprietor. So it's kind of like there's benefit to it, but it comes with the cost of more FICA taxes.
Hmm.
So I could theoretically pay myself a salary of $100,000, and then I could company match 25,000 on top of that. But to get the full company match, because I think 25% is the cap on how much you could pay. So if I want to get the full $60,000 employer match, I'd have to pay myself a salary of like $250,000, and then I'm not getting any of the S corporation FICA benefits there. So I have had that thought, but I think where I'm at is more optimal, at least how I see it right now, and talking with my accountant and all that. But that is true. Like I could really turbocharge that at the cost of more FICA taxes if I wanted to.
Yeah, and again, disclaimer: I'm no expert. I just know.
Me neither. I know enough to be dangerous, is what I say.
Yeah, I was like, I've just watched years and years and years of personal finance content, and then my best friend, I consider him a brother. He is a financial advisor, so we talk shop of that type of stuff all the time. So,
If I could ask you a question, aside from the money guys, like who are some of your bigger financial creators that you follow, if you don't mind me asking?
some of them are more mainstream. So like the Graham Steffens of the world and things like
Yep.
that. But really for like solid advice that gets like more into the weeds, the Money Guy show is it. And then I don't really care for all of Dave Ramsey's content, but George Camel has a show of his own. He's one of the Ramsey
Yep.
personalities, and his
I've
show
seen
is
some of his
a
stuff.
lot
Yep.
more engaging for me than like the Dave Ramsey show or the Ramsey show.
Yep.
I think he took his first name off it.
I think he's targeting more like our demographic, or your demographic, probably specifically. You mentioned you're in your 20s. I'm in my 30s, but I think he's trying to make it more like for the younger generations than what the Ramsey show targets primarily. But I used to read tons of showing my age here, but I used to read tons of like blogs. I used to read
Mm.
financial independence blogs. I used to read Joshua Kennan, Frugal Woods. I used to read Mr. Money Mustache. I used to
Oh,
read
okay.
Mad Scientist, and some of those people have actually transitioned. I have over here a shelf. A lot of them have written books now. Some of them transitioned into YouTube channels, podcasts, and Afford Anything is one that I really like.
Mm.
Uh, I, I never followed her before with like I don't know if she had a blog or anything, but the Afford Anything podcast I think is really solid.
Yeah. Yeah, I also have watched like some bigger pocket stuff, but that's like more real estate focused. Then
Yep.
they have like a personal finance arm, but I never got like too involved in that.
I'm
But
familiar with it. Not, yeah, I've not followed it a bunch, but I'm familiar with it at least.
um, do you have sorry, getting back to the questions here. Do you
Yeah.
have a goal for your net worth? And are you willing to share that number, or you can leave it kind of vague if you'd prefer?
I, no, like I said, I'm an open book. I mentioned earlier our household expenses are about $60,000 a year, depending on your risk tolerance, depending on how deep in the weeds you've gotten into planning these things and reading about all the different thoughts around it. Bill Bengen, the Trinity study back
Mm-hmm.
in the 80s or 90s, whenever it was done, the 4% rule. 4% rule, if we go based off that, I need 25 times 60,000 to be financially independent, right? So that's $1.5 million. So $1.5 million is the number if I go strictly off that. I follow another one that I really like is Two Sides of Phi. So there's
Mm.
two friends. They started out, one had just become financially independent, and the other one was very near to financial independence. So that's what Two Sides of Phi meant, like one on each side of financial independence. Now they're both financially independent, so the name is like not quite as apt. But they go really deep down. Uh, what's the ratio called? They go really deep down, like the Schiller PE ratios versus the historical, and adjusting the basically like really deep in the weeds financial metrics of PE ratios of like the S&P 500 compared to
Mm.
historical, and how that is used to adjust 4% up or down depending on like the current economic climate. So my number strays from 1.5 a little bit, but like generally speaking, I think the 4% rule is pretty solid. And so roughly my number is like 1.5. And as I said earlier, like I'm not too awful far off if the market keeps going really, really well. And if I decide later in the year to make the jump towards selling down some of my stuff and taking that tax hit and opening up a brokerage account with some of the proceeds, I could cross that number. So it's crazy to be there. It's crazy that Pokemon has done that.
Yeah, at 35, did you say?
Yeah.
Uh, that's pretty good. 1.5 million at 35. That's some solid numbers.
And at some point I'm going to I have a spreadsheet from early on when I started my job. I remember I made a spreadsheet, and Mr. Money Mustache was one of my favorite forums that I used to read, blogs, forums, whatever. Um, he made one post that really hit me: the shockingly simple math behind early retirement. Like when you're a big saver, saving is like dual acting, because saving, if you make X as your salary, if you
Mm-hmm.
save 50% of your income, not only are you spending less, but you're getting all the compounding. If it's early in your career, you're getting decades and decades of compounding, which is massive. But like you can retire. He did the math on like how many years you'd have to retire, irrespective of your income, irrespective of your spending, or just based on your savings rate. Because if you have an income of X and you save half of it, well, that's you only need to get to like you're clearly living on half of whatever X is. So you
Yeah.
only need so many multiples of X, and you can forecast out that math. And I remember early on as a chemical engineer, I took my salary and I forecasted out like here's inflation, cost of living adjustments, and
Mm-hmm.
what might I get. I haven't reflected on that in a while, but I remember when I got done after 10 years, I forecasted what my salary would be at 10 years fairly close. And I forecasted my expected 401k balance pretty close. And if I had just continued that trend, like I was thinking from the beginning that I was only going to have to engineer for maybe 20 years, 25 years tops, and
Oh
I was going
wow.
to be out and done. Um, Pokemon has just drastically moved up the timelines because it was 10 years of engineering now, followed by going on 4 years of Pokemon at this point. So definitely sped up the timeline a lot.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. I with my full-time job, I can retire as early as 55. And then that would give me like a 78% pension on top of Roth IRA, and I also have a 457 and that sort of stuff. So 55 is like the latest I'll retire, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
um,
Do you envision yourself like being done with it all and just being on a beach or being on a golf course, or do you think you'll do something? Do you think you'll have like a hobby side hustle that produces some amount of income?
I'll probably do something. If it's not earning money, it would have to be like a like very heavy time commitment hobby that doesn't generate money. And I don't think
Hmm.
there's a whole lot of those, so probably something that generates money to some
Yeah.
degree. I can't imagine doing nothing because
Yeah.
like right now I work full time and then I have like a very 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 part-time job, and then I'm doing the Pokemon business stuff on the side on top of the wife and kids thing. So I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine doing absolutely nothing.
Yep. Gotta stay busy.
Yeah. Um, JB Kane's here. Uh, yeah, you can post the link. I don't know if that's something I have to approve. I don't live stream
Depending
much.
on Yeah, depending on your default YouTube permissions, might not allow links. I'm not sure.
Okay. Uh, go for it, and then I'll see if I get a pop up.
There are so many great calculators out there. It's absolutely crazy the amount of resources if you want to get deep into the weeds on the finance stuff.
Yeah, we covered the retirement number. So that's the 1.5 million, give or take. Let's mix it up. Let's get away from the investing talk. We'll probably come back to that later. Um, but let's get into some hot take questions.
There we
Um,
go.
you talk about cosplay investors a lot. In your opinion, what is the difference between a cosplay investor and like a real investor?
To me, it's talk versus walk. There's a lot of people out there that will show TCG player charts and talk about top three, top five, top 10, this and that. And they give no indication of if they even own any of that stuff, if they're even doing what they're saying you, the viewer, should do. So my biggest thing is like I love the channels that follow people that are actually walking the walk. I like to include my channel in that. Clearly, if this is your first exposure to me, I'm throwing a lot of numbers out there. I have like that's my entire channel is talking about. I don't quite give it all away. I'm not going to give you my social and my address, but a lot of numbers are out there for sure. And like Rudy, Alpha Investments, he walks the walk. Obviously, you had Brian Pokey Neon. He walks the walk. He is doing business in the space at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the types of content that I like. Alex, Nostalgianomics, Eli, Pokemart. They're doing business at a high level and they're sharing with you their thoughts and opinions and uh they're sharing with you their guesses on like where the market's gonna head. And I just think it like means a lot more when it's coming from someone actually in it. There's a lot of channels out there that they'll say scary stuff. I was talking about it on my live stream this week. Like 4 or 5 years ago, there were people guaranteeing Vivid Voltage at $200 in 2020 was a good buy, and they were guaranteeing it was only going to go up. And it's like some of those videos, some of those channels have way more subscribers, have way more views, way more engagement than I do, and they just like destroy the people. It's insane.
Hmm.
So yeah, it all comes down to like, are they doing what they're saying you should do? And that's one big thing I make it very clear. Like, I never tell people what they should do, buy, sell, anything. I say what I am doing, what I would do. Um, and it's not always going to be right. It's not always going to be optimal, but like, I am living and dying based on the things that I'm saying because I'm actually doing them. A lot of people just farm affiliate links and farm views and farm ad revenue, and they don't even lose money. They have no skin in the game if it goes down, and people that follow them get wrecked. So yeah, that's why I'm so big on transparency, so that you know that I'm not like pumping my bags. I'm not shilling anything. Like, I'll tell you exactly how much I have and what I have. Like, I'm not just gonna try to pump something and then dump it on you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I try. I hope I'm doing a good job of like walking the walk. I don't post any like market anything. Like I don't post predictions or advice or anything like that. But in terms of just like the content I've put out on just selling on TCG Player and eBay and starting up a website and stuff like that, I just share what I'm doing and I try not to preach like this is the best way to do it because I don't know that there is one, and if there was, I
Yeah.
certainly don't know it. So
Yeah. No, and nor do I. Like I always say that I'm just one guy. I'm doing what I think is best for me. I'm doing what I think is gonna make me the most return and all that stuff. But I've been wrong before and I'll continue to be wrong on certain things in the future. But yeah, biggest thing to me is like, there are people, and they should have more personal responsibility, and they really shouldn't do this, but there are literally people turning on YouTube, typing in Pokemon investing, and they're just blindly following. Like, please don't do that. If you're out there, please don't blindly follow me, don't blindly follow Harley, don't blindly follow anyone, but some are. And this is very much subjective. This is my opinion, but I think the finance channels that tell you what they're in and tell you roughly, they don't need to tell you everything, but like, the more they tell you and the more they like show you the walk that they're walking, it just validates all of it a lot more, in my opinion. And the same goes in the Pokemon space and whatever space you're in. Like, I don't want to turn on YouTube and like go my early interactions with YouTube were like people repairing a dryer because my dryer broke and I had to figure out how to fix it, or fixing my furnace. And I don't want to go on there and watch a video about how to fix my furnace from some guy that like doesn't even own the furnace that I own and is just like coming up with a rant. Oh, like, try this, try that. I've never done it, but like, go for it. Do that. I want to have like an HVAC expert that actually has owned or worked on or repaired, and I want them to be doing it in front of me while they're telling me how to do it. But so many channels are not that. It's just talk. It's talk that they're not doing. Like, they have no idea. They've been here weeks or months, or it's scary.
yeah, yeah, and, like you said, some of those videos and some of those channels get a lot of engagement. So that's the crazy part.
Yeah.
Speaking of engagement and YouTube and all of that, I know that some people consider the word community a bit of a meme at this point
Hmm.
because everyone's for the community, even if they're not. But do you think that having a following or having fans or however you want to phrase that holds value?
Yeah. It actually ties in well with, I forget what how it even came up, but there are some people in the space that nameless, faceless, operating at a massive level. So it's not like it's not a prerequisite for success. It's not mandatory for success, but it can benefit a lot. My consignment business, I've sold millions of dollars of other people's Pokemon cards in the past few years. If I was nameless and faceless, they wouldn't send them to me. But like Z&G Emporium, he was out there. He was a name. He was a face. He Probstein. You can go on Instagram and he's making reels and this and that. And so, depending on what you want to do and how you want to do it, that is required for certain things. If you want to start a consignment business, you probably can't do it as Joe Schmo, no Instagram followers, no YouTube. Like, people, like, you can't just spend $1,000 on an ad from a zero follower account and like have people send you their $10,000 cards, have people send you their, like, it's just not going to happen. So, but as I said earlier, you can just use the consigners. You don't have to be the consigner. You can use them. You can use other people's and take advantage of their name, take advantage of their brand, take advantage of their trust. Not in a bad way, but like in a good way. And a lot of the consigners, like, again, I'll shout out Z&G Emporium. I'll shout out Probstein. They're solid ones on eBay. They like, I know off the top of my head, I use Probstein all the time for sealed product. 95% he'll pay out on sales over $1,000. So going back to our whole fee bay conversation, it's a 12% fee if you sell it yourself, but if you sell it on Probstein's, you're getting 95% above $1,000. That's massive. So
Hmm.
you're getting more than you would get selling it yourself, and you're not doing the work. You're getting his brand, you're getting his trust, you're getting his labor, and you're getting more money for it. And that's the same way my consignment service is. If you're selling through Fanatics, I don't do eBay, I do Fanatics. It's cheaper to sell through me and get my additional exposure, my YouTube channel, my Instagram, and you're paying less money. You're netting out more money at the end of the day. So same thing goes for Z&G Emporium. I think he's not quite to the level of Probstein yet, but at some point maybe he'll get there. I think he's paying out 93% above 1,000 and then 95% above 3,000. So
Oh
it's
wow.
like a no-brainer at certain value levels that someone else does the work and you get more money. So yeah, again, a long answer as I always do, but if you want to do certain things, it's gonna be required, but it's definitely not if you take certain avenues.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. And with the like multiple four-figure cards, it's not like you can fire up a new eBay account and turn those quickly because no one's gonna buy from a seller with like two sales.
Yep. Yeah, they're gonna be very like, if you list out a full poncho set individually, like $5,000, $10,000 cards, and people are gonna see a one feedback seller and are gonna think, oh, this is some random account that's just gonna scam me and try to run off with the money.
Yeah. Next hot take question. Hot market or cold market? What do you prefer?
Again, I'm gonna hop up on my fence and I'm gonna give a nuanced answer that kind of like, for my sanity, cold markets like 2014 to 2019 in a lot of ways was like bliss. Things were just a lot calmer. It felt more like natural. It felt more like pure in some lovey-dovey rainbow and sunshine way. People felt more pure in that the money wasn't as crazy and the engagement felt more like just organic and whatever. These days, with the money, with the extra money, has come more scams, and it's come like more people in the space that don't really care about Pokemon whatsoever. And I've been accused of being an evil capitalist that doesn't even like Pokemon, but like, I truly, the amount of sitting cuties that I have, and I've sold off a lot of my former card collection because the market values it more than me. But like these canvases, the games, I have every game. I've bought them all along the way. Not like, well, since I re-entered in 2014, I went back and I bought Diamond and Pearl and Platinum, and I bought all the ones I missed. Maybe in retirement, I'll play through them all. I would love to someday. But so I do truly love this stuff. But so cold market, the benefits are sanity and maybe the levels of engagement and the type of engagement can be better. But the hot market, clearly the pros of the hot market are like, I'm making a lot more money today than I did in 2019. I overall, I lean towards uh, some neutral ground. I think what's going on right now is not sustainable. It's not reasonable. We're booming way too much right now. I think if I could pick out, like, 2019, I think was a solid year. 2020 is when the real big boom happened and things went crazy, but 2019 was building. 2022, 2023, it's crazy in this era to hear people call that like a bear market, a down market. 2022, 2023 were crazy. They were
Hmm.
massive markets. They were no 2021, they were no 2025, but like, I wish we could have those. If we could just have those one after another, slight like uptrend, slight tailwind to the market, that would be great. So I want a warm market.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. 2023 is when I got back into collecting at least. And I was grabbing collection boxes and other sealed products for oftentimes like less than $3 a pack. So if that were to happen again, I would love that.
Yeah.
Um, Next hot take question. Uh, oh, I guess that was the last one. Are there any other Pokemon business hot takes that you can share that will not get you canceled?
Um,
Putting you on the
I mean,
spot here.
if I had one that could get me canceled, I feel like I'd share it. I feel like I would. I've definitely in the finance space, like one. I forget how I even got going on the rant, but somebody in my chat in a live stream had said like the American dream was dead, and I feel like I've heard people say too, like it's too late to start a Pokemon business. So maybe that's the one I'll go with. It's not too late. You could start today. And as I said earlier, I started with 5 grand and I put in thousands of hours and I like invested a lot of myself into what I have today. And if you did that today, I mean, I think it would take less time if you really give it your all, just given the liquidity, given the market that we're in. But you really can. A lot of people fall into certain traps. They try getting rich quick, and this could be said about finance, not even just Pokemon. This could be said about a lot of things. But don't try to shortcut it. Put in the work, put in the time, put in the energy, and you can build something crazy. You can build something massive, and that goes for like the American dream is very much not dead. I think in or outside of Pokemon, you can have, barring very unforeseen, unfortunate, exceptional circumstances, most all people in the United States can have whatever they desire, if they really go for it, if they really pour themselves into it. A lot of people, sad as it is to say, in the Pokemon space and outside of it, when you look at like the whole scalper this and that, and a lot of people just like stew in negativity, and it's sad. It's sad, really. Yeah, there's certain things going on in the world, in the Pokemon market, that aren't optimal, and we should try to do things to change them. But some people, I think it's a very old saying, but they throw the baby out with the bathwater. Something is going on, and they just like they'll not do anything because things aren't perfect and things could be better theoretically. And I'm very much against like that defeatist attitude, and I see it in and out of the Pokemon space. So I hopefully that was very like broad and vague and all over the place, but hopefully that counts. Hopefully that suffices.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I definitely buy into the thought that negativity is just such an awful, like, rotting, just disgusting mess. Um,
Mm,
I when I was growing up, my family was pretty impoverished, and I had to do a lot of grinding to get out of it. And luckily, there were safety nets in place and things like the Pell Grant, which helped pay for my college and things like that. And then that education exists, so that was like my ladder out of poverty. But all
yeah,
that to say that like uh, anyone who has something that's like worth showing, other people will say it's because they were born with a silver spoon, or they
yep,
are entitled, or they had lots of advantages over everyone else, or whatever the case may be. And I would, at least to some extent, consider myself like the counter argument to that. And like there are
yeah,
other,
and
like I do have like some level of privilege, obviously, with like the safety nets and stuff like that. Like no discredit to that, but I think
yeah,
if you,
and
sorry, go ahead.
oh no, you go ahead. You go ahead and finish because I'll probably go for a bit.
I was just gonna say, I think if you have some level of grit and just really put your head down, I think you can achieve a lot more than you would give yourself credit for. And I think that
Yeah,
goes for most
yeah,
people.
yep. Like being born in the United States, and me personally, I was born to like a two-parent household, and my parents are still together. Like those are, I actually had my dad on. I had my dad right here on a live stream about a month or so ago, and more so than financially, just having like a loving parents household, born in a first world country. Like you could have been born in a war torn country, and you could have had, and I don't know your background, and I don't know the background of everyone that's going to listen to this, but like you could have horrific medical situations going on that preclude you from getting out of bed, that preclude you from doing any of this kind of stuff. So like most, not everybody, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but most people watching this have a lot of benefits already. If you have some kind of a device with some kind of an internet connection, you're literally ahead of billions of people on this planet. So I'm not going to make any further assumptions out you, but I know objective fact. If you're consuming this, you have some kind of access to internet and electricity and presumably running water and all that. Like you're ahead of half of the world, or some like crazy number there. And yeah, I've definitely gotten that at some point. And I've mentioned in all my videos, I've mentioned exactly what I've gotten and exactly what I've not gotten, and I'm not ashamed about any of it. And some people will just try to tear down others with like, oh well, your parents paid for, my parents paid for like half of my college. They didn't pay for all of it. Some people's parents paid for all of it. Some people's parents paid for none of it. My parents bought me my first car. I have friends who parents bought them their first car, and it was a $40,000 brand new, whatever it may be. Mine was a $1,500 beater Chevy Lumina that had been sideswiped by a car, and it like I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that car, Bondo, and this and that, and like it, I got what I got, and I didn't like it just is what it is. But a lot of people will go through life like, oh, they had more than me. And anyone who's successful had more than me. Anyone who has less than me is a bum that should work harder. And like that's so common, and it's so sad. It's so sad. And I would love to be able to do something in my life, and I don't even know what it would be, but like I hope to build more than I'll need. I hope to build excess in my lifetime, so that someday maybe in my like I would want to give my kids and potentially grandkids and all that enough to get started, enough like I had, not everything. I want them to
Hmm.
have some skin in the game. I don't want them to be entitled. I want them to be enabled. But like maybe some kind of a scholarship fund, or maybe some kind of a, have some form of my my legacy, my what I leave behind be like financial. And I don't know what that would be and what that would look like, but that thought is there. And um yeah, that getting really far out there, but I like the conversation a lot.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I definitely also have that thought and that urge to want to leave something behind, both like for my daughters and eventually, hopefully, grandchildren. That's a long, long ways away. Uh,
Yeah.
but and then also like more than that. Shameless plug, real quick. My website hdcollectibles.com. If you use code KetchumAll10, the dis- the link is in the description, and so is the promo code. You can get $10 off your orders of $100 or more. And the reason I bring that up now is that 5% of all profits of website sales goes to Nationwide Children's Hospital. So that I thought just tied into the giving back and having, a bigger impact than yourself. Although I am also plugging my own store, so there's that.
Yeah. People get really weird with that too. It's like some celebrity or some like billionaire will give money, and it's like, oh, they only gave $10 million. It's like that's like me giving $10, and then do you give $10? Oh no, I don't donate it to charity. I don't have any money. People can be so weird about like watching other people's charitable stuff, and yeah, it's some people are just very very negative, and it's sad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can poke holes in anything if you try hard enough and be as negative about anything if you want.
Yep.
Um, let's get into some personal questions here. What interests do you have outside of Pokemon?
Growing up, I played like every sport. I'm very much big into like competitiveness. I'm very much big into I played basketball and racquetball and golf and football and baseball. And so since having kids and the couple years with the pandemic and all that, like I got out of a lot of it. A lot of the people that I used to go, my cousins and my friends that I used to go and play pickup baseball, pickup softball with, we just got out of it. I want to consciously get back into it at some point. My kids are starting sports now. My kids both were on the same t-ball team that just ended about a week or two ago. So engaging in athletics is a general one. Hopefully sharing that with my kids. Um, Another big one is travel. Travel these days, it's a lot easier on the pocketbook if I tie it in with business. If it's a
Hmm.
part business trip, it can be subsidized heavily by the business. So, like end of June, I'm going to Cleveland, and we're gonna do 2 days at Collecticon, and then we're
Hmm.
also gonna afterwards on the way home we're gonna hit Niagara Falls. So one like lifelong goal my wife and I share is that we want to see all 50 states, and we have like in our dining room, it's actually like a scratch off. It's a big U.S. map, and every time you uh, do a trip to a new state, you scratch it off. So I haven't counted, but we're probably like around a dozen or maybe a little bit over 12, 15 states. And we're going to hit them all, hopefully, health allowing and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm a big into food too. I'm big into making food and consuming food. So that ties in well with travel. We always
Yeah.
want to go try the regional things. And those are some of my biggest interests outside. And then obviously my kids and Pokemon is a big one, clearly. But yeah, the kids and whatever they're into. My son had a big like 3 month season, maybe it was 6 months of like Minecraft. So I dove pretty deep into Minecraft, and I was playing that with him. And my interest will definitely always include whatever my kids are getting into.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Because that's a good way to like bond with them is to show interest in what they're interested in. Um,
Hmm.
I probably play Minecraft about once a year for the span of probably about a month every year.
Get back into it, yeah.
Yeah.
What are a couple of your big hobbies and interests outside of Pokemon?
Um, I used to do martial arts uh, towards the end of high school. I also got into theater, so I did one musical during my high school career. Um, I really can't sing, so I don't know how I got the part in a musical. But yeah, I would say like video games, personal finance, and then it used to be martial arts and working out. Now I like martial arts, but I don't do it anymore. And I hate working out, but I'm trying to get back to it.
I am as well, yeah. And you mentioned finance stuff. Clearly, from our conversations earlier, finance is a hobby of mine as well.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of picked up on that one.
Yeah.
um, do you never mind. The answer to this one is yes. You do watch YouTube in your spare time, it seems. What
Too
sort of
much. Yeah.
creators or what content do you watch?
So I have a little section of my shelf here. RuneScape. I learned to flip playing RuneScape years ago. I used to flip all different kinds of stuff. The holiday items, the Santa hats, the pumpkins, the Easter eggs. I used to flip like unidentified herbs and lobsters. But very nostalgic for the game. I guess an interest as well. Not crazy, but like video games. I play pretty much old school RuneScape is like the
Mm-hmm.
one. I used to play Fortnite for a couple years. I played that with some Pokemon friends actually. Uh, but I watch a fair bit of YouTube content around RuneScape. I consume way more. I watch people play and engage with RuneScape more than I play RuneScape. But these two, this plush and this little guy right here, are both from the creator named Settled. He has some amazing series, like the level of editing, the level of production value that some of the RuneScape content creators have is absolutely phenomenal. It's insane. Soup. the Gillinor games, um, solo mission with the Dead Man All Stars. The last couple of years, it just ended a few weeks ago. Amazing content in RuneScape. That's like honestly the favorite content I consume on YouTube. I consume a fair bit of like finance podcasts, Pokemon podcasts, things like that. This content that we're making right now, this is my bread and butter. I don't watch openings. I don't watch top things to buy, this, that, investing,
Hmm.
whatever, the cosplay investors. I watch and I listen to long form content about people that are doing and talking about themselves too. So yeah, clearly a lot of it. I don't watch much of it. Like most of it's on the clock. I constantly have YouTube in the
Hmm.
background in my ear, listening to podcasts and stuff, like usually on 2x. I'm a DGen who needs to like I need to consume double the content. So I watch it fast forwarded.
Yeah, I listen to the SBI podcast by Pat Flynn.
Hmm.
And I listen to that on like 1.5 times speed, I think. I'm trying to get
Yep.
through every episode. I'm still like
You
way
gotta
back in,
pump those numbers up. You got to get to 2x.
yeah, apparently, because I'm still stuck in like 2017 or 2018 when he was making episodes back then. So I'm not even on recent episodes because I think
Yeah.
he started it in like he's I think like early 2010s.
Has he done it like every week? Like
There's
how?
like 8 or 900 episodes, I think, and
Holy crap!
I'm only like 200 to 300 deep.
I've never gone through a backlog like that big. There's sometimes that I'll find a creator and it's like they've only been on for a few years. I can probably get through most of it. Then We Fight is actually one. Again, going back to RuneScape, but Link's Ocarina and Rarg, two guys that they're just friends. They play the game. They're not the best at the game by any means, but they have a lot of fun. They make these different challenges, and I think I've gone through their whole backlog because I have a lot of fun seeing the way they engage with the game.
Yeah, yeah. I also watch Game Grumps sometimes on YouTube, and seeing their interactions is always fun. They're
Hmm.
crazy. Um, do you have, getting back to the questions here, do you have any goals outside of business and money and net worth and all the stuff we've talked about thus far?
Biggest one, lifelong goal is to see all 50 states. Um, that one's like that's like a smart goal. That one's specific,
Hmm.
measurable. All the engineer stuff. Very vague goal, but like my number one like primary mission is to just I want to do for my kids more than was done for me. I had my dad on a live stream. My parents both did so much for me and my sister growing up, and I just want to give my kids more. So that's like a very sappy, like a good that's a good one to share. Outside of that, um, a lot of them are business related. A lot of them are very tied to Pokemon. But yeah, I guess just travel and then fatherhood would be the main ones. Um, I guess I have some RuneScape goals. I want to get to. I'm actually 1999 total level. I'm one level away from 2000 total level, which has been a goal for a while. I'll never get maxed. I'll never have all skills at 99, but I want to work through. I want to be like master combat achievements. I have some goals in that. So this is. Did you play RuneScape ever when you were younger or no?
Very briefly for probably a stretch of maybe 3 to 6 months.
Do you know who this is?
No.
So this is Jad. This is like to get your fire cape, you have to defeat Jad in the fight caves. This was like a long time ago. This was back in original RuneScape. There's a new version that's like a beast. Like he there's three of him as like the small boss before you get to the new big boss. I want to get my infernal cape. It's like it's so much significantly harder than defeating Jad to get your fire cape. But I definitely have I have a lot of goals in the RuneScape game, which is funny. Um, I have more goals inside of that game than I have like outside of Pokemon probably. It's such a fun, engaging, like deep game.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't have I don't have very many games that I've like sunk a bunch of time to into other than like I played Summoner's War for a long time. That's like a gotcha game on mobile. Uh,
Hmm.
and that was miserable. I was like stuck because it was all about like farming runes for your monsters so that you can compete in PvP. So
Hmm.
I would like wake up, start farming, and then farm all day like AFK, and then still struggle with PvP because it was like the more you spend, the better you do,
Very pay to
obviously.
win. Yeah. Yep.
Um,
I used to play. It's like probably no one out there listening has heard of it, but Pokemon Duel used to be
mm,
a really fun app. Did you play that game or no?
no, I just remember seeing
I,
it.
oh, I love that game so much. I'm so sad that they took it away from us, but it just didn't make them enough money. But I used to grind it out free to play. I used to play it on my lunch break, on my breaks at work, and I climbed up pretty high up the leaderboard. But I just got to like I was ranked in the top like 100 monthly from the people playing it. But to get any higher, I would have had to just open up the wallet. I would have had to dump so much money into it. Like I got to where I was peak of like I was better than some pay to play players, but I just refused to put hundreds of dollars a month into it. I do play Pokemon Go, which kind of is fairly pay to win, but I play
Hmm.
it with the family. We're free to play. We go do raids together, and I guess I have a goal to someday get to level 50 in that. I just hit level 43, and man, do the levels slow down in that game.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much experience you need. Just like RuneScape, you need exponentially more experience each level to get to the next level. It's crazy.
Yeah, I played quite a bit of Pokemon Go, which is why I wanted to master set the English Pogo set. I think that's
Mm.
in my dark blue binder. Oh no, I did it again. Ah, go back.
That's funny.
um uh in some of your content, I caught that you are on a weight loss journey. Do you want to share any details about that?
Yeah, so I graduated college. I mentioned I'm 35, so I graduated college like 14 years ago. I want to say I graduated college at like 205. I'm 6'4" for reference. Like I'm really tall, so I wasn't like huge. I was actually like really gangly. I was pretty athletic. I was in good shape. I was like a string bean kind of at 205. But I just life happened, got married, got comfortable, all that good stuff, had kids, and I put on my pregnancy weight, I guess. I put on my pandemic weight. I got up to like 255, and per BMI, which is not a perfect metric by any means, look, I was knocking on the door of obesity, and I like the thought of being around for a long time. I like the thought
Mm-hmm.
of like being around to see my kids grow and my grandkids, and like there's a direct correlation between your health and wellness and how long you live. Like obviously anything can happen and you're not guaranteed anything. But I just want to do my best to do my part to, and I mentioned this too in the video where I talked about it, but I put so much more conscious effort and thought and energy into my financial well-being, and I was just letting my like health well-being really slack behind. So I'm not doing a perfect job at it, but January of 2024, I set a goal for myself to be. I was 255 at the time. I wanted to be 230 or 225 by the end of the year, and I got there. So I started this year at like 225, and I actually injured myself doing like a workout in December, and I
Oh
like
wow.
needed to take off 4 to 6 weeks. It wasn't I didn't need to go get MRIs or anything. It was my Achilles, self-diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure I sprained my Achilles pretty bad because I couldn't walk for a day or two. I mean it was like your Achilles is like a pretty standout tendon. You know exactly where it is, and I could feel that the pain was there. So I January and February, it's winter. I'm injured. I taking it easy, got on my workout routine, and next thing you know it's May, and I'm back. I drifted up from 225 back up to 235, and it's like if I don't get this back under control, I'm going to be 255 again before you know it, headed for 300. So just a couple weeks ago, I started up a new program, and one of the sub goals that I made, the main goal was like getting to a certain weight, but I'm 6'4", and I
Mm-hmm.
can't dunk a basketball, And I could dunk back in college. I was younger, I was more athletic, and I was like actively, I was 50 pounds less than my peak. I was 205 instead of 255. So I set a goal for like, I go to Charlotte every year to Collecticon, and Rusty, TCA Gaming, is there. He's got a basketball court. I made a goal of like, I want to dunk a basketball at Rusty's next year. I don't know if it's going to happen, but like a good side effect of like chasing the goal of dunking a basketball is, well, I'm down 20, 25 pounds at least. And I'm getting myself back on track though. I don't know if I'll ever get down to my college weight, but my goal for the end of the year is 215. I'm going to get down to 215 by the end of the year. So I've put in certain punishments. I'm not allowing myself to indulge in chicken wings, which is one of my favorite foods.
Uh,
No IPAs, no soda if I'm over 230. So every time I drop 10 pounds, I'll move that marker down to where, like, if and I had that rule and I was just cheating. It's like, oh, it's just a few chicken wings. Oh, like, oh, it's a special night. It's this, that. Let me have a soda. I'm not doing it anymore. No more cheating. So that'll get me back on track.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. That's super wholesome. Uh, Good for you for setting goals, and I think the punishments is a good idea.
Yeah, it's a big motivation because I'm very much, as we talked about earlier, in interest. Like, I'm a food guy. I'm a big food guy, and it's arbitrary. Like, I can't eat chicken wings, but I can eat pizza. And obviously, you could eat 3,000 calories of pizza in one sitting. Like, I still need to mind the quantity. I still need to work in vegetables. But if I go to a get together and there are chicken wings, I was actually just at one. We went on Father's Day. I was I think I stepped on the scale that morning and I was like 234. Over 230, I couldn't do it. My father-in-law wanted pizza and wings, so we got pizza and wings. I could only eat pizza. So yeah, it was painful. It was painful, but I'm like, you deserve this, Dan. You've strayed from your goal. You're not going to make it there if you indulge in those chicken wings, cuz I can control myself more with pizza, but if I'm eating wings, I'm like, man, I'm going to eat what's there.
Yeah,
I'm definitely worse with those.
as much as what's available.
Yeah, yeah. I'm bad at limiting with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, well, I think we covered all of the questions that I had prepared. Is there anything that you wanted to cover, or do you have any final words of wisdom?
Definitely very much appreciate having you on. And I'll say for everyone here, definitely check out your former live stream you had with Brian. Check out your videos that you've got. You've got a good thing going here. I haven't watched all of it, but I've definitely watched quite a bit of it. And like and subscribe if you haven't yet, for sure. If you've made it this far, you're definitely having a good time, and you should stick along for the ride. So I just wanted to say thank you for having me here. Thanks everyone in chat for being here. Um, Other than that, I guess I'll ask you a couple questions before we go, and then I'll leave my parting words of wisdom. But
Okay.
like where do you plan on taking this? Like, you're fairly early in your journey. I can't remember when your first video was, but I'm your second guest. Do you plan on some regular schedule of guests moving forward? Do you have any firm schedule for like pre-recorded videos? Are you going to tie in shorts? I'm hitting you with a lot there, but like, yeah, what are your, for the people who did like and subscribe, what can they look forward to for the next 3, 6, 12 months and beyond?
My goal is to post hopefully once a week on YouTube, long form content, pre-recorded stuff. Um, and then with that is the caveat that I won't post less than twice a month, long form, because I did take a break in like March, April, part of May, where I posted like once a month in March and once a month in April.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about the reason for that in previous videos and the podcast with Brian, but the TLDR is I have bipolar disorder, suffered with depression. There was some personal stuff going on at the time as well. So I took a major step back from the business and content creation and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But moving forward, once a week, pre recorded stuff. I would love to do at least one guest a month live stream like this. And then occasional giveaway live streams. I'll be giving away like where's my finger? Like Japanese boxes. I plan to do one at the end of this month. For email list subscribers, I'll be doing a Japanese 151 booster box giveaway. So I'll divvy up those packs in a way that makes sense amongst several winners, and live
Mhm.
stream that. Um, but yeah, there I don't have like a huge overarching plan, because I don't have enough experience in the space, and this is like my first uh, delve into YouTube. So yeah, that's what I've got going as of right now.
It all sounds good. I will say, I guess it's kind of self-dubbed, but I pride myself in my consistency. I think I have a video called Mr. Consistency or Consistency is Key. I forget what it was called, but I've changed my schedules. I've changed my posting schedules over the years, but just like with working out, once in that one I had a valid reason. Sounds like you had a valid reason to step back for a bit. So if life gets in the way, absolutely step back and change your schedules. But I haven't missed posting my Monday video at 1 p.m. Eastern in 3 years, I don't think. And before that, like the entire 4 years I've been on YouTube, I've hit my Monday, Thursday, my Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever the schedule was. Like I made myself I held myself accountable, and I made sure I hit it. Because if I don't, like I could fall out of it quickly. And with how much this does feed into the sourcing packs for the live streams and sourcing collections for consignments, I don't want to fall off it. So
Hmm.
I've made myself stay very firm to my schedule. I definitely would recommend to whatever extent you can to try and do that, because it's been huge for me for sure.
Yeah, and I don't have a very firm schedule right now. Right now it's just once a week is what the schedule is. Most of the
Yeah,
time I shoot for Tuesdays. There was like a week or so ago it came out on a Wednesday instead.
yeah.
But yeah, I'll definitely consider having like a set time and day
If you
for posting.
Everyone's different, and I know it's huge for me though. It's very huge for me. I have uh I have a big backlog of I have a running Google document that I keep ideas throughout the
Hmm.
day. I'll just open up my thing and I'll just, hey, like here's a note on something I want to do. I have dozens of ideas I've yet to do, and then I've been around for 4 years now, so I have a lot of old stuff I could go back and I could refresh it, or
Hmm.
I could react to my old thing. How was my prediction? So the biggest thing is like I know I have that time that I have to publish something. So it keeps my mind on it, and it keeps me like sometimes like I'm going to be traveling through Collecticon in Niagara Falls the following weekend. So I just have to record it ahead of time. That's where I do one that's like more evergreen, more like I'm not going to record something and then it's going to be invalidated by some happening in the hobby, like some news thing drops and it's like everything I said was invalid now, some reprint, or I do a lot of topics that are like less affected by the day to day.
Hmm. Yeah, that's smart planning ahead.
Yeah, there's been a time or two where I've pre-recorded like a week or two out, and it's come back to bite me a little bit, and I either change it up or I just I put some like disclaimer in the description that like, hey, this changed. I don't have the time to record something, but I'm not a perfect YouTuber, but I think the best thing I've done is definitely consistency. So Um, but yeah, other than that, as far as parting words of wisdom, again, thank you for having me. Thanks everyone for being here. I think I think one thing I say on my channel a lot that I haven't said yet this live stream is that we are all in the same arena. That arena is Pokemon. If you're here, you're engaging, you're involved with Pokemon to some extent. But we're playing very different games and we're playing by very different rules. So that said, like my channel is what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Don't blindly copy me. What I'm doing is what I think is best for me. It likely isn't best for me. Likely I'm gonna buy some things too high and they're gonna go down, or vice versa. You're not gonna time all the tops and bottoms. So like I'm doing what I think is best for me, and what is actually best for me is gonna be slightly different. And Harley's gonna do what's best for him, and everyone's gonna do things that are optimized for the game that they're playing and the rules that they're playing by. So Listen to the content you enjoy, listen to the content that you feel provides you value. And then going back to what we said earlier a little bit, take ownership of your decisions. Don't blindly follow. Don't allow yourself to be in a position of like, I'm a victim of having taken that guy's advice, copying what that guy did, and now I'm sat here. I lost a bunch of money, or this or that, or even if you end up making money, don't let that be all due to blindly following someone else. Make and own those decisions for yourself, and you'll go a lot further. Sometimes you'll fail, but failing is a good teacher. And never, on that note, like, never go all in. I mean, survivorship bias can show you that most of the billionaires in today's world went all in on something and it worked out, but survivorship bias does not show you all the people that failed along the way. There's not many YouTube channels that get a lot of traction about, I went all in on Beanie Babies, and I'm broke now. Like that YouTube wasn't a thing at the time. It would be amazing had it been, and had we like, could we have had all those Beanie Baby content creators that would have been out there, guaranteeing how good of an investment they would be. We have Ken Golden's Home Shopping Network ads on YouTube somewhere here and there, and we have some old like snippets out of magazines. But
Hmm.
man, I wish we could have had Beanie Baby YouTube. That would have been amazing.
That would kill the afternoon blues to look back on that and be like, well, at least I didn't do that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Uh, well, like Dan with KetchumAll said, thank you everyone for joining. I really, really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you hopping on here, Dan. It's been fantastic talking with you for the last couple hours. Let me see if I can nail the end stream. We'll see how this goes. I think it is good.